Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to have a look at three examples of pass pawns in real games. So this is part 4 of chapter 4, which is pass pawns from the book My System by Aron Nimzowitsch. The first example is a game between Nimzowitsch and Rubinstein. Here, as we can see, white is having a potential white pass pawn on the A file. So it's white to move. How did white draw this game? They simply played rook e6 check, and when the king moved, they obviously took the bishop. Now you might be thinking this is somewhat crazy. That's not the case, because after the pawn here takes on b5, now c4 is played. The whole purpose is to fix this pawn because we don't want the pawn on c4 and try to create a protected pass pawn, and that's the whole purpose of c4. And here white simply takes the pawn on h6, and after rook to h8, we have bishop g7, rook takes the pawn and bishop takes the pawn. And as you can see here, the king simply goes to c5, try to take the other pawn, but that clears the way for the white king to come to f4. And the whole purpose here is for the white king to simply come to f4, as we can see here. And this is a drawn in game. After king d5, we have this move here, f3, and this is a drawn in game. But the main reason is, even though black is upper point, because it's versus a bishop with pawns in game, black cannot make any headway, because the bishop actually controls this diagonal, protects this pawn, and after trade of these pawns, um, um, it is a drawn endgame. This second example is a game played between Horson and Nimzowitsch. Nimzowitsch playing here as black. Here it can be very tricky. For example, here if blacks play something like a random move, king e6, now this is trouble for black, because white simply can create a pass pawn on the a file. After playing c6, after king d6, now king can go to c2, and if here black takes a pawn, as you can see, the white's a pawn becomes a pass pawn, and this can be very, very tricky for black. Now going back to the original position, the correct move here, which was played by Nimzowitsch, was king c7. Now you might be thinking, after c3, now you simply should not take the pawn again, because a pawn becomes a pass pawn. And the king is far away from the pass pawn. So what here Nimzowitsch played was king b6 and here white simply took the pawn. So at first glance it looks like white is up a pawn, but it's black who has the advantage. The main reason behind that is, after king b5, king comes to c3, and now white is on zugzwang. So white simply abandons, and after king takes b4, it's black who has the advantage. A possible continuation is, after king c4, white can simply post the pass pawn now. So black has to deal with the pass pawn, and once the pass pawn is dealt with, black simply uses the same technique of outflanking and try to get this pawn. And once the pawn on d4 falls, this is a very easy game. In game, black has two pass pawns, and black is able to convert it as well. And the final example in this video is a game played between Tarash and Berger. So here Tarash was playing white. As you can see, black has a pass pawn, and it's white to move. Obviously white has to deal with this pawn, because we know the square of the pawn, the rule of the square of the pawn. White's king has to come within the square of the pawn, and now white is able to come there. So black simply brings the king forward, and here d5 was played. White simply ignores and plays e5. You might be thinking this is a sacrifice. This is actually not a sacrifice, because the main reason is black simply has double pawns on the center on the d file, and also white is able to create a pass pawn on the b file. So after the king takes, white simply blocks the pawns on the d file. So black starts to push the h pawn. After a3, as you can see, now white is preparing to create a pass pawn on the b file. After h4, we have the pass pawn. Now after a takes b4, king d6, black has to come here and deal with this pawn here. Here white simply takes the pawn on d4 after king c6, and here white made the mistake of b5 check. So the b5 is actually a mistake. So the whole reason is, we'll have a look at it quickly. After the pawns are taken, here black is in time to come and collect white's pawns, while white is able to deal with black's pawns because of the pawn on h4. So going back to the original position here, instead of b5 check, what do you think white should have played? White should have played f4. So now the whole thing changes. A possible continuation is after king d6, now white simply presses the advantage, and after the pawn is taken here, white simply now comes to collect black's pawns. However, black will try to play tricks. Obviously, after king f7, now another trick is to play h3. You cannot take the pawn on the on h3 and make it double pawns. Once you do that, it becomes very tricky. So you simply push the pawn to g3, keep the pawn chain intact. After king c6, king g star, g d5, we have king takes f5, and here white king simply comes and collects the other pawn on h3. After king f5, we obviously take the opposition, and here f5 is played. Obviously after g6, both pawns are traded, and now white has two passed pawns, and this is a winning endgame. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and it's bye for now.